Hello, and a very good day to you all. I sincerely wish you the best of health and prosperity. First, a quick but important request: if you find value in our message and are committed to changing your mindset for the better, please do subscribe to the Proctor Mindset channel now. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the insights our dedicated team works tirelessly to bring you. We pour a lot of effort and passion into creating this content, and your support is genuinely what keeps this mission alive. Thank you so much for being here with us. I realized that perhaps your worst financial enemy is yourself. Yes, you. Not the government, not the market, and not your job. That might sound offensive, perhaps even absurd. But for a long time, I was my own biggest obstacle. It was only by mastering my own mind that my financial life truly took off. And that is exactly what I want to show you today. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. I used to believe that it was the lack of money that prevented me from becoming wealthy. It seemed logical. The bills piled up. I would check my bank balance and feel that familiar anxiety. You know, that silent, nagging dread of seeing the month march on while the money just doesn't follow. But, over time, and through quite a bit of pain, I discovered that the real blockage wasn't in the bank, it was in my head. This might be your current reality. You may believe that if you haven't yet prospered, it's due to your salary, the financial crisis, unemployment, politics, or a lack of opportunities. But have you ever seen someone with less than you or more debt, fewer qualifications, less time, you make a leap that seemed absolutely impossible? This happens every single day. And it should wake you up, not frustrate you. The truth you haven't been told is that what is holding you back is not what is missing from your life, but what remains in your mind. Thoughts you've carried since childhood, beliefs heard from your parents, teachers, TV, or neighbors, such as, money is dirty, people who get rich did something wrong, or being poor is more spiritual. These are phrases that seem innocuous, yet they act like viruses, constantly sabotaging your efforts. You may not even realize it because these ideas don't shout, they whisper. They appear when an opportunity arises, and you think, I'm not good enough. They surface when you see someone else prosper, and you feel envy instead of inspiration. They stop you from enrolling in a course, from accepting a proposal, or from taking a risk on a new project. Not because you lack the ability, but because you believe you will fail. How many times has this happened to you? I'm not judging you, I've been there. There was a time when I owed more than I earned. A debt that wouldn't disappear because it wasn't just financial, it was emotional and mental. I felt incapable, inferior, and out of the game. And it's this feeling of powerlessness that destroys people's progress. It's not the unpaid bill, but the idea that you cannot overcome it. What changed for me was the understanding that I might not have had money, but I could generate wealth in my mind. So, that is what I did. I started visualizing myself as prosperous. I studied the way successful people think, act, and make decisions. I began to reprogram myself. Research from Stanford University shows that over 80% of financial decisions are emotional, not rational. You may know what the right thing to do is, you may understand the logic, and you may have a plan, but if you are emotionally blocked, you will self-sabotage. The biggest sign this is happening to you is when you face a great idea and say, now isn't the right time, or that only works for people with connections, or worse, I wasn't born for this. These phrases are the internal alarm bells of a limiting mind. If you don't learn to recognize and reprogram this, you can spend your whole life surrounded by opportunities and never see a single one. A significant turning point in my life was accepting that first cleaning contract, 145 francs a month. To many, it was insignificant, but for me, it was the beginning of everything. I started to see wealth not in my bank account, but in my mind. It was there, scrubbing floors, that I believed it was possible to manage contracts in 7 different cities, even London. And that is what came to pass. This transformation was only possible because I changed the way my mind operated. I stopped repeating stories of scarcity, and I began to write a new story. You can do the same. Think about how many times you felt a big change was close, but something pulled you back. Perhaps fear, or doubt. That voice saying, it will go wrong. What if I told you that voice isn't yours, that it was gradually put there by people who were also afraid? If you don't reprogram this, you'll continue to respond to life with commands you didn't even choose. You'll live in survival mode when you could be in creation mode. You'll keep waiting for the ideal moment that never arrives, justifying failure with phrases you don't even truly believe. Do you want to continue living under that programming? Or are you ready to take control? When you understand that your thoughts construct your reality, everything changes. You wake up with more energy, you speak with more conviction, you act with greater courage. Not because everything around you has changed, but because you have changed. And when you change internally, the world must adapt. That's how it works. If you feel it's time to take the next step, start here. Observe what you believe about money, about yourself, and about success. Question these ideas. Replace "I can't" with "How can I?" Trade the fear of scarcity for the vision of abundance. If you master this invisible battle between what you believe and what you truly want, your financial life won't just change, it will take a leap you never imagined. Everything starts on the inside. That is where your power resides. Most people underestimate the power they hold in their minds. When I talk about imagination, many think it's child's play, that it has nothing to do with money, business, or prosperity. But this is the mistake. Because if I've learned one thing, and I learned it the hard way, it's that your imagination is your most valuable and most neglected asset. Everything you see in the physical world began as an image, an idea, a vivid thought. The phone you're using to watch this video, the roof over your house, the car in the garage, none of it existed until someone imagined it could. The problem is, while some use their imagination to create the future, most use it to relive the past or anticipate disasters. They don't project success, they replay tragedies. And they do this every day without realizing it. Tell me, how many times have you imagined that something would go wrong before it even started? How many times have you created scenes in your mind where the money ran out, the business failed, the partner left you, or the account balance was zero? How often do you go to bed with a script of defeat already running in your head, like a repeated film? And worse, how many of those scenes have you seen come true, exactly as you feared? This is not a coincidence, it's mental programming. The brain is obeying what you repeat. And science has proven this. A study published in the Journal of Neurophysiology revealed that the brain activates the same areas when you imagine a physical movement as when you actually execute it. This means your mind does not differentiate between the real and the intensely imagined. And if it doesn't know the difference, it acts as if everything is real, including the catastrophes you create every day. This discovery changed everything for me. Because if the mind believes what you imagine with enough force, then you can train your mind to create the reality you want. That's what I did. When everything around me said I was poor, a failure, with no future, I closed my eyes and began to build another reality inside. Even while scrubbing floors with an old rag in the cold Toronto nights, I imagined myself on a stage, with lights, applause, and people hanging on every word. I smelt the environment. I heard the voices, I saw the faces. Everything was real to me, even without existing externally. And it didn't take long for the outside world to align itself with what I was experiencing on the inside. You must understand this once and for all, your mind is a 3D printer that transforms internal images into external reality. What you print inside, it tries to materialize outside. And if you continue to feed it images of failure, scarcity, and powerlessness, that is exactly what you will experience. Not because it's your destiny, but because you are training your brain to fail every single day. I remember a woman who came to see me after a seminar. She was crying. She said she couldn't move forward, that everything was going wrong, and she felt unlucky. I asked her what she imagined when she thought about her own future. She hesitated, then confessed, "I see myself alone, depressed, struggling to pay the bills." And I said, "That is what you are training your mind to create." At that moment, she understood. It's your turn. What have you been imagining? Do you see yourself prospering or just dragging along? Do you see yourself in an environment of abundance or in a constant struggle for survival? When you think about your future, do you feel relief or tension? Because what you visualize frequently shapes every decision, every reaction, and every behavior. It's like an invisible script directing your life without you realizing it. You might be thinking, but Bob, I'm a realist. I don't like to delude myself. The world you call reality today was imagined by someone who dared to dream. The company you work for, the neighborhood you live in, the technology you use, none of it existed until someone decided it was possible. And furthermore, the realists live in the world the dreamers have created. Steve Jobs said that everything around us was made by people no smarter than us. They just imagined. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for a lack of creativity. You know the rest of the story. Here is a simple but powerful exercise. Starting today, before you touch your phone, look at social media, or fill yourself with external stimuli, close your eyes for 2 minutes and imagine in detail the life you desire. See the colors, smell the scents. Hear the sounds. Dive into this scene, making it a daily ritual. Because the more vivid your mental image, the more real it becomes for your subconscious. And the subconscious is what ultimately commands your life. If someone says this is foolish, that you're deluding yourself, or that life doesn't work this way, smile. Because those same people will look at your life a few years from now and say you were lucky. But you will know the truth. You will know that it was your mind, your faith, and your imagination that built every part of that new reality. You don't need more proof, more guarantees, or more permission. You must imagine differently and think differently. Because everything changes when you change what you project in your mind. If you want a new future, create new images. Ultimately, the world responds to who you are internally. And if you master that, you master the rest. The biggest turning point in my life was understanding that the decision precedes the result. Always. Not after everything is perfect, not when the money appears, not when you feel secure, but before. Because it is the decision that creates the path, not the other way around. Most people wait for circumstances to change before they take action, but that is why they remain stuck. They are waiting for something that will only arrive after the choice, not before it. This might be happening to you. Perhaps you are waiting for the ideal job, the perfect partner, the perfect moment, or the confidence to finally begin. But the perfect moment doesn't exist. What exists is the instant when you decide that enough is enough, that it is now or never. And it is at that internal breaking point that life begins to reorganize around you. People think decisions are just thoughts, but they are energies, internal declarations that you are ready to pay the price. Paying the price doesn't mean suffering, it means committing. A real decision leaves no room for doubt. It burns the bridges. That is why it is so powerful, because when you truly decide, everything aligns with that frequency. Opportunities emerge, ideas flow, and the right people appear. But none of that happens beforehand. I have seen intelligent, talented people, full of potential, fail, not due to a lack of ability, but due to hesitation, by never making a true decision. They say, I'll think about it, I'll analyze it, or maybe someday. And that someday lasts for years. When they finally realize it, time has passed, chances have flown away, and life hasn't changed. All because of indecision. I remember a decisive moment in my journey. I was growing, things were starting to happen, and I had the opportunity to expand my business into another country. A huge, but risky, chance. I didn't know the market. I didn't know what awaited me. The advice started pouring in, Bob, why now? You're doing fine. Take it slow. Don't risk everything. These voices are common. They try to protect you, but in reality, they hold you back. I almost gave in, almost retreated, but I remembered what I heard from one of my mentors, doubt is a thief who steals dreams before they are born. It struck me. It was true. At that moment, I decided. I said yes. That yes changed everything. How many times have you said no when you wanted to say yes? How many opportunities have you let pass because you thought you weren't ready? Because you were waiting for confidence? Because you wanted to be absolutely sure? No one is sure of anything before starting, not even me. I trembled at my first seminars. My voice faltered, my hands sweated, but I had already decided. And it was that decision that supported me when everything seemed uncertain. There is a stark difference between desiring something and deciding something. Everyone desires, few decide. Desiring is passive, comfortable, safe. Deciding is acting, committing, abandoning excuses, and assuming total responsibility for your life. That is why most people avoid deciding. Deciding is saying, if it doesn't work, it's my fault. And many prefer to blame fate, the government, others, anyone but themselves. Not deciding is also a decision, and it's usually the one that leads you exactly where you want to avoid stagnation, frustration, and the repetition of the same cycles. You might not see it now, but you will look back in a few years and realize you let life pass you by because you didn't have the courage to decide. Data from Columbia University shows that an adult makes an average of 70 conscious decisions per day, over 25,000 per year. Most are automatic, trivial, but some have the power to change your story. These are the ones that make your heart beat faster. The ones that give you butterflies. The ones that take you out of your comfort zone. And those are the ones you must learn to say yes to. Stop waiting to feel confident to start. Confidence comes after. It is a consequence of action, not a prerequisite. It's like climbing a staircase in the dark. You don't need to see all the steps. You just need to trust that the next one will be there when you put your foot down. And it will be. If this resonates with you, if it stirs something inside, then I propose something to you now, a symbolic but powerful act. Take a piece of paper and write by hand, starting today, I decide to live the life I desire. I decide to prosper. I decide to trust myself. Read this aloud every day until these words stop being words and become your new identity. Because when you internalize this decision, when it becomes part of who you are, you start to act differently, speak differently, and choose differently. And that changes everything. In the end, it is not your CV, your history, or your bank account that defines your future, but the decision you make today, right now, to no longer accept the life you are living, to break free, to change, to set foot on the road even without seeing the end. I did it. That is why I am here talking to you today. I decided. My decision transformed my reality. And you, will you decide, or will you let life decide for you? You will never reach a new reality if you continue to act like the person who created the old reality. This is a simple but deeply ignored truth. Most people want more money, more freedom, and more recognition, but they continue to behave like someone who has none of that. That is why they fail to move forward. They are waiting for the world to change, when in fact, the world is waiting for them. You don't attract what you desire, you attract what you are. The universe does not respond to words, it responds to the coherence between thoughts, feelings, and actions. If you want to become prosperous and free, you must start behaving like that person now, not later. It's like tuning into a radio station. The music is already in the air, but it only plays for you when your device is adjusted to the same frequency. Life works the same way. Your next financial level is already available, but you only access it when you start acting accordingly. This isn't about pretending, buying expensive clothes you can't afford, or posing for photos to look like someone you're not. That's theater. I'm talking about posture, identity, and making daily decisions consistent with the person you want to become. Waking up with intention, speaking with presence, taking care of yourself with respect, treating your time seriously, stopping acting like someone who survives and starting to behave like someone who builds. I saw this happen with a woman who contacted me at an event. She wanted to launch a business but said, "Bob, I'll only act like an entrepreneur once I have the money." I looked her in the eye and said, "You'll only have the money once you start acting like an entrepreneur." She fell silent, and in that moment, something shifted. Most people wait for external validation, but it never comes. The world only believes in you when you believe in you. This process starts on the inside. There was a time when I had to travel to give talks, but I didn't have the money to stay in the same hotels as the other speakers. So, I would still come early. I observed everything. I watched how they behaved, how they spoke, how they dressed, and how they walked. And I repeated it, not out of empty imitation, but because I was teaching my body and mind to align with this new model. With every gesture, I was saying, "This is where I belong." And the universe started to respond. This transformation is energetic, physical, and neurological. A study from the University of California showed that people who adopt power poses for just 2 minutes have an increase in testosterone, a reduction in cortisol, and a boost in self-confidence. Your body listens to you all the time, and the world does, too. Every gesture, every word, every movement emits a signal that tells the universe who you are and what you are ready to receive. If you were the most powerful version of yourself today, how would you wake up? How would you speak to people? What would you post on social media? What kind of decisions would you make? What kind of commitments would you undertake? What kind of habits would you have? Would that version of you procrastinate? Would she make excuses? Would she accept less than she deserves? Of course not. So, why do you continue to do it? The key is to start before you are ready. To act as if, not because you are pretending, but because you are training yourself. You are sending consistent signals that you are ready to move to the next level. The more you practice this state of being, the more natural it becomes. Soon, there will be no separation between who you were and who you have become. Here is my invitation. For the next 7 days, wake up and act as if you are the person you desire to be. Even if, inside, you feel doubt, fear, or insecurity, do it anyway. Dress with intention, walk with firmness, speak with conviction, look people in the eye, respond to challenges like someone who has already won. This is how transformation begins, from the outside in, and from the inside out. One day at a time, one step at a time. You will notice over the days that things around you will start to change. Conversations shift, opportunities appear, and answers arrive. Not by magic, but by alignment. The world always responds to your internal state. When you start to move like someone who has already arrived, reality has no choice but to follow you. This is what happened for me, and it can happen for you. Everything begins when you stop waiting for the world to change, and you start being the change. When you start acting, thinking, feeling, and deciding like the person who has already won. There is no other path. This is the secret that separates those who transform their lives from those who merely survive. Are you ready to take that step? If so, everything you are seeking is already on its way, waiting for you in the next version of yourself. Go towards her. Your financial life doesn't change when the money appears. It changes when you decide to become the person who attracts that money. Everything starts on the inside, in your way of thinking, imagining, deciding, and behaving. That is the true tipping point. If this has ignited something within you, then you are already in motion. The video that is appearing on your screen now will take you even further on this journey. It is the next stage in your evolution of wisdom, so that you become an even better person than you are today. Thank you so much for accompanying me this far. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.